Hey guys, DatTags here. We're going to be looking through the preseason testing and also just a preview for the Bahrain GP that's happening this weekend. So, first of all, we'll look through the entire timings for the Bahrain test results. So, we have Perez with the fastest timing of anyone, 1 minute 30.305. Uh, let's see how it goes, because Red Bull looked really strong this season. As you can see, we have Perez in first, and Verstappen didn't go through the last day, which is why he didn't go to any of the 131s. Guan Yu Zhou had the fastest time of day 2, but that was because he was doing a qualifying sim. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty decent. It was a lot, not as much as last time. It was only 3 days of testing, and this time it was at Bahrain, not even in Spain. So we're not sure exactly how the cars will go out yet, like what the pecking order will be. It'll be quite interesting this season to see how it goes and how it pans out. Looking into the most number of laps done by a team, and this normally is a pretty good gauge for like reliability for each of the teams and even the the makes of the engines as well. So we have AlphaTauri with the 456 laps, Williams 439, Ferrari 417, Haas 415, Red Bull 413, and so on. I'm pretty sure McLaren had a few issues. I know for Mercedes had a hydraulic failure on Russell's car. Alfa Romeo had a stoppage, if I'm not wrong. So there have been a few hiccups here and there throughout testing. But in general, the cars like this year seem decently reliable. And yeah, well, AlphaTauri using the Honda powered engine, Red Bull in 5th. I don't think they had any issues, or not many for either of them. So the Honda powered engine looks pretty reliable right now, and it's very strong, to be fair. Williams using Mercedes engine. You have Williams, Mercedes, Aston Martin, and well, yeah, and McLaren. So we'll see how it goes, but I feel like McLaren are going to be struggling this season quite a bit in terms of the car itself, because they seem genuinely quite slow. Like Oscar Piastri was 19th in the total days, and he drove all 3 days as well. Yeah, so it's pretty decently reliable, I would say, for the Honda powered cars. Mercedes, pretty decent as well, but they seem to be down on power compared to the Ferraris, who are more reliable and more powerful. So it seems like Mercedes are in trouble a little bit. Next, we'll be looking into the top speed of the different cars. So we have Ferrari with this chart is by F1 Data Analysis. So thank you for that. I'll link his Twitter down in the description. But yeah, we can see like this top speed is taken from the fastest laps of each of the teams. So Ferrari is 327, which is insane. Alpine with the Renault engines also fast, but they do seem to be struggling a little bit in terms of your cornering. So look out for them in places like Monza and like maybe Mexico. And yeah, so all those high speed tracks that we have, they look like they'll be a pretty good bet to be towards the top of the midfield. And then we have Williams. Again, I don't know why they're faster than Mercedes. And then you have Red Bull, Haas, McLaren, Aston Martin, Mercedes, AlphaTauri, and Alfa Romeo. So we can see that Alfa Romeo is not exactly quickest on the straights, but that seems to me, it seems like they're just using a higher downforce setup in order to get the timing back in the corners. But we also have AlphaTauri and Red Bull, 319 to 315. Not that big of a gap, but considering how good the Red Bull is, there's really no competition here. The Red Bull is just insanely quick in the corners and decent in the straights. So the only place like that could really worry them is if it's like a really just a fast track and they're not able to overtake. But it seems like using their DRS is very effective this season. So moving on then to the traction. So moving on then to the traction. So as you can see from this graph, also by F1 data analysis, you can really see the Alpine is struggling for traction. The longitudinal acceleration is just not there. But they do seem faster. So once they pick up the speed, they reach a much higher speed. So for longer straight sections, maybe in DRS, it will help them. But getting out of the corners to get close to the car itself, your head, might be a problem for them this season. So Alpine seem like a very decent midfield car, but I don't see them going like best of the rest. But we also have Alpha at the same time, who have excellent traction, but that also could be because they're going very slow. But time at maximum throttle, it does tell us in terms of the entire lap how good the car is in general. So you can see like Red Bull is still on top all the way, that just so quick through the corners. They don't even need to brake for some of them. So Aston Martin look pretty strong. I would say they are above Mercedes, but Ferrari, I don't know why the Ferrari is struggling at the maximum throttle time, but it seems that they are not able to get the power down as quick as the Red Bull, but they are able to reach a higher top speed, I think. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of makes sense. So no. Alright, sorry. So this is the graph that I was supposed to be showing you. Yeah, so you can see like as the arrow points, the Alpine is just down bad. Williams is just shit everywhere. Seems decent, like better than what they were like 2 years ago. But it does seem like they will struggle a little bit on some weekends over here. Next up, we have the corner analysis of turn 1 for, I think this is day 3, yep, practice 3, for preseason testing, and this is between Perez, Hamilton, and Sainz. So, I mean, you can really tell, can't you? So you have a top speed. It looks like Ferrari's higher than Red Bull. Red Bull seems like it's in the middle of Mercedes and Ferrari. Keep in mind, Mercedes were using like an absolute terrible rear wing. Sorry, it was like a door attached to the back of the car. It was massive. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you can see Ferrari 322 versus 319 and 315. So Ferrari really have the upper hand on the top speed there, which might help them in terms of if they're stuck behind the Red Bull to just glide past, especially with DRS. But they might lose it in the corners, that's the only issue. So in terms of the minimum speed, so this is normally the apex speed, you can see that Mercedes carries the most speed through the corner itself, right? But Ferrari is not able to carry as much speed in the corners. Red Bull is somewhere in between. But this also could be, like I said, the rear wing of the Mercedes was massive, so they were using a much higher downforce setup compared to Red Bull and Ferrari. But Mercedes were able to brake later though, but that could be because of the lower top speed, as I said. And then in terms of acceleration, it seems like okay, decent in terms of, it seems evenly matched to me, but Perez gained 0.05, half a tenth on Hamilton and a tenth on Sainz. So in terms of probably like the consistent deceleration in terms of slowing the car down, getting it into turn 1, it seems that Red Bull are better. But in terms versus Ferrari, they seem like they're much better on the brakes, because a tenth on Sainz through turn 1 itself on brakes. So we'll see how the season pans out. Right now, it just looks like Red Bull just have the better car outright. And then in terms of getting the turn in, yeah, you can see Mercedes start turning a little bit earlier here, and then they are able to turn a lot more as well. So it's a pretty slow speed corner turn 1, so you wouldn't see much of a difference. You'll see the Red Bull come alive in those medium and fast apex corners. And going towards the bottom, which is your how they brake, you can see Perez broke the earliest. That's probably because he just really wanted to get the car slowed down in time. He did brake the longest as well. Like, he let go of the brakes even after the rest had let go, versus Hamilton and Sainz, but he's still the fastest. That's the thing. So even if you brake earlier, even if you carry a little bit less speed through the corner, you're still able to get the car rotated in and just get on the power so quick. Yeah, but in terms of your Sainz, he broke. I mean, he started accelerating the earliest. So he decent amount of acceleration there for Ferrari as well. And yeah, I would say that it's pretty even between Ferrari and Red Bull, but Red Bull do have a better car right now in terms of cornering and everything. It's just that through top speed maybe and brakes, it seems that Ferrari are matching them. So it's just the corners. Red Bull are just insanely quick. If you see the car itself, it's just so slick through the air. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at some of the predictions from some of the big names in, well, reporting and media. Thank you, the F1 scene, for this tweet. So we'll be looking at, first of all, everyone agrees Red Bull is just quickest, Ferrari is second. The Aston Martin has surprised me this season, though. These look very strong. So the Aston Martin look very strong, and I think they could be in front of Mercedes if you ask me, but most of them say that, except for GP Blog, which says Mercedes ahead. I would say it's pretty even. It's like a 50-50. Everyone agrees Alpine somewhere in the middle, yeah. Very high top speed, but not good acceleration, so it's like a balance over there. I think they will do well in some weekends and they'll struggle at others. And then you have Haas and Alfa Romeo, so that's the in-between thing. Alfa Romeo did put the fastest time on day 2, but that was a qualifying sim, to be fair. Alfa Romeo, I will say, will be above Haas, because I think throughout the season as well, they'll just do a bit better. And then we have AlphaTauri or McLaren. McLaren look absolutely down right now. Like, they just look so bad. It's insane how they dropped off. It's going to be a challenge now for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri to try and get points at least. They look like they did not learn from whatever all the others did last season. It just messed everything up. And then you have AlphaTauri, which don't look that strong of a car, but I would say is okay. Like, in terms of their traction and the top speed. Actually, no, the top speed is pretty bad, but in terms of traction, they look decent. And they did run the most number of laps through the Bahrain test, so maybe reliability could help them. You never know. Then we have Williams. I don't think the Williams are gonna do that well this season either, just because they had so much ground to make up, and doesn't seem like they will. Their top speed is pretty decent with the Mercedes engine, but not the best. And now we'll be looking into my preseason predictions for the end of the season and how the constructors is going to turn out. So using whatever all the data I just went through and what my personal opinions are, so I'll walk through all of them. So in terms of your back markers, I think one's pretty obvious, Williams. I don't think they're going anywhere from there. In terms of McLaren, I think McLaren will be just ahead of Williams, personally, but it's like an in-between. We'll leave McLaren for later. And then you have your midfield, which is, I would say, the lower end of midfield will be your AlphaTauri, and then you have Alpine in the middle. So they will be somewhere in the middle. Haas, I think Haas might move up, I think they have a better car than McLaren as well. So yeah, I would think Haas would be best of the best of the back markers. And then we have Alfa Romeo, which I think will be above Alpha Tauri, but Alpine just seem like they have a much stronger car. And in terms of best of the rest, Aston Martin, no doubt Aston Martin would be up there. Or I would even consider putting them in podium position. You know what? I'll put them in podium positions if they don't mess up the starting of the season. Yeah, they're up there. Towards the end, I think Mercedes infrastructure and in terms of their research and development, R&D, Mercedes is just so powerful in that they might overtake Aston Martin even through like after the first 2-3 races. We already saw their first upgrade for this weekend, so they'll be using like a lower downforce rear wing. So I'll put Mercedes as best of the rest, which is insane to see. I love what Aston Martin have done, which is last season they had a shit car. They learned from it and they improved it massively. Of course, they did copy other teams in some of the designs, but that's the world. That's how it works. Then in terms of McLaren, yeah, I would think they're above Williams, but they are a back marker. Now coming to the last two. We have Ferrari and Red Bull. Ferrari have switched everything up. Frederic Vasseur is now their team principal, and their entire like backroom staff have this ain't football. Their entire like hierarchy of oil chiefs and whatever is all changed. So I would say they would come second, just because they have that little bit of period where they have to get used to the new normal of how everything has switched around within the team itself. And I think they might do well this season, but it's going to be difficult for them to go through the season while all these changes are happening inside the company itself. So maybe next season it'll put them in a stronger position, but this season I think they're going to be right behind the champions, Red Bull. Their car is on drugs. It sticks to the track like it's on rails. It has a decent or a high top speed. It's just all around better than everybody else. Like, it looks so stable when it drives as well, and in terms of like the aero, it just looks so clean. I don't think anyone's going to be challenging that much for the title this season, so it could be just between Perez and Max, but we all know who Red Bull is going to favor over there. So Max could be a 3-time world champion by the end of the year. We'll see how it goes. So this is my prediction for this year. So let me know what you all think in the comments below. Just like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.